Well, there you all are, and welcome in. Welcome in to JW World News. Of course, that's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But we always talk about it every Saturday night. We haven't missed a year, going on 19 years, and that'll be on January 26th. Less than a month from now, we will have been doing this for 19 years, and we never missed a Saturday night because we're here because you're here. It's very, very important that people can listen to this program live and they can be touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, but they can see how they can kind of break through from it. So we're glad to have you with us. Thank you for coming in. Well, my name is Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world. Well, that's right up here in Boston, Massachusetts, and we do have a lot of apostates here. And if all goes well in 2025, we will have the most apostates that have ever gathered together in one place, and that's going to be at the Hilton Hotel. Still working on a date, but we're going to have an ex-Jehovah's Witness convention. And if you want to come, write me. Now, you will be getting these tickets shortly. I've been working with the Hilton. As soon as I get a date, I'll send you a ticket number, and I'll tell you what day it's going to be. But it looks like August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. There's still the dragging the feet over there at the Hilton. But I want to let you guys know well in advance. They say it's hard to book a hotel room 2 years out or a year and a half out. You can do it a year out. So they're trying to see if they can't book it. So at least we have a date and people can start planning on coming to the convention up here in the Boston area. So we'll have hopefully, I'm thinking, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking upwards of 500 people could be coming. We already have about 35, 40 people that said they want to come. So just base that, I don't know. I mean, I believe at this point that would be 25, 30 rooms. So, the hotel is a beautiful hotel. So that's where we'll book the rooms at that Hilton. And they're going to give us a discount. They said about 20%. But it's hard for them to actually give us a price because we're like a year and a half out. So as time goes forward, they'll tell us. But if I can just get a date, that would be good. Well, if you want to get a ticket, now it's a first come, first serve. The convention is free of charge. Of course, you don't have to pay for your hotel and your transportation. But if you want to get a ticket, write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. And by all means, say, Rick, put me down. I want to come. Now, I'm not going to hold you hostage on it. This is just to give me an idea of how many people are coming. So if you do that, then I know, how big of a room to have. These are things I have to know in order to put the program together. So do that for me. That would help me a lot. All right, well, let's check and see what's going on. Friends, this was one big year in the Watchtower. It was a tumultuous year. It was a year that I know the Watchtower, they're hoping it doesn't repeat itself in 2024. But I'm going to tell you something. This was a bad, bad year. A lot of things happened this year that really rocked the Watchtower. Their cage was rattled. And as I always say here, the monkey died, the circus is over. And they know it. It is getting really, really horrendous in this organization. Some of the things they're coming out with, and we're going to discuss some of the things that took place in the last year on the Jehovah's Witness World News. And some of the things the witnesses did, some of the changes they made. But just to give you an idea, I'm just going to start off. I'm going to give you the top 5 stories. Now, how I find and classify the top stories is the amount of clicks or the amount of hits it gets on YouTube and in Reddit. So I have the top 5 stories in the Watchtower for 2023. So you might want to think about that. You probably say, well, Rick, I got my own thoughts on that, and see if you come up with what we did here. But I'm going to start off by talking about this isn't in the top 5, but it's in the top 10. It has to do with the convention that was held, the Exercise Patience Convention. Now, that's an interesting title, right? I always thought it was. And because the witnesses have to really exercise patience, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses today. You've been waiting for Armageddon to come, and it hasn't come yet. Oh, one other thing I want to say, too, before we go too far. I have got a little duck. You can probably see him up over my head. That is the duck. You say the secret word, and the duck will come down and give you $20. So if you hear this, if you hear that, the duck will come down. So I got 3 secret words tonight, and someone remind me at the end of the program, and I'll tell you what the words are. And if someone did say it, I'll catch up because sometimes I miss it all. So if you could, I'll give you the words at the end of the program and see if you can't be a winner. So the exercise patience convention. I can tell you this, there were many, many empty seats, more than you would ever think. It was unbelievable. People were sending me pictures in from conventions they went to all summer long, from Montana, from Los Angeles, from Toronto, from Atlanta, and all of the conventions were like empty. They did not have the amount of people that we used to see at conventions. So the Watchtower was kind of testing the water here to see what was going to happen. Because you must remember, this is the first time in 2023 that the witnesses actually came together. This was the first in-person convention in 2 years. So the Watchtower was testing the waters to see what would happen. They had to be disappointed. They had to be very, very disappointed. And I have to tell you, I want to thank all those people that sent the information in on all the empty seats, the pitches. We showed them on the 6 screens during our broadcast when we were talking about the convention. But I wanted to bring something up. I'm going to play for you guys a video. I'm going to share it here. And it's a video of the 6 screens team protesting. We protested at the regional convention in Lowell, Massachusetts. And I'm going to play a little video of that. Let me just get that up right now so I can show it to you. And what happened at that convention was something else. I mean, the witnesses, I'm telling you, they're waking up, they're smelling the coffee. So let me just share the screen here. And let's do that right now. All right, let me see if I can find that. Okay, there's 6 screens. All right, well, let's play this. Listen in. This is the convention. I was at this convention in Lowell, Mass. We had Dick Borgie and his wife, Constance. They were there with us. We had Luke and Julie there with us as well, and a man named Norman LaRoe. But I have to tell you, it was not full. We sent one of the people in, Norman, we sent him into the arena, and he said, Rick, there's so many empty seats. He says, it's unbelievable. Now, the arena sits about 6,000 people. He estimated probably 3,500. About half of the seats were not filled. Well, let's play this right now. I want you to see parts of it. We'll talk a little bit about it. But what I'm going to have you notice, we were at the exit when the witnesses were coming out of the convention. They couldn't miss us. There was a stoplight, and they had to stop, and they had to see us there. Now, we were getting thumbs up. We were getting people taking pictures of us. We were getting people agreeing with us. It was unbelievable. So let's listen in, and I'll kind of fast forward and show you some of the things. And I'm going to also share some other things with you. So let's share that right now. And let's do that. And let's play the clip.
To our program this afternoon. We are live here in Lowell, Massachusetts, and we are getting ready to do a protest. We are at the Tsongas Center. It holds about 6,000 people, and you're looking at the sign. They have a big digital sign out front. And anyways, the witnesses will be coming out, but we do have a bunch of signs. Luke, show them the Tsongas Center itself. Span down there. That is the Tsongas Center itself. The witnesses are going to be coming out of there very, very shortly. So we're going to see what happens. We do have a bunch of signs. Luke, if you would, span around and show the signs. Yeah, there you go. Hey, Connie and Dick, you can grab that sign right there you're looking at. That one right there. Just grab that off the stone wall there. And as they start coming out, you can stand right there. We got a number of the people here from the 6 screens protest team. So we're going to try to really get the attention now already. Well, let me explain to you about the Tsongas Center. We're in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Yeah, hold on right there, folks. I want to tell you, I want to fast forward this. Now, what I noticed is the nice vehicles, expensive vehicles. I was seeing BMWs. We were seeing Mercedes. We were seeing Cadillacs, Lincolns. It was unbelievable. The watchtower, the witnesses, I don't know if they're going into debt or what, but boy, they all had really nice vehicles. That was something that really caught my attention. Let's see if we can't show you this. Now, I'll show you where we were. I got this fast forwarded so you can see.
They complained about me protesting. They said, geez, Rick, why do you protest? Why do you protest? You're just feeding into the persecution complex. Well, that's probably true. That's probably true. But on the other hand, I'm thinking we're helping more people than we're hurting. I really, really do. I loved when I used to go to conventions and there were protesters out there. I loved to see the protesters at my convention. Yeah, so, boy, they're still coming out. They're still coming out. It's estimated there was about 2,000 people in there today. So they're still coming out. We're here. Rick Farron with the Six Screens protest team. We are right here in Lowell, Massachusetts, and we are covering.
Well, you get an idea. The nice skies, you can see it, but you couldn't see it because of the way the sun was. But people were coming by and giving us thumbs up. Now, this is very unusual, but I noticed in some of our latter protests that we did in the last couple of years, we had people giving us thumbs up. They were happy to see us there. One woman actually stopped and said, "Wow, it's so good to see you guys here." She says, I'm done with this religion. She said, "I just showed up today." But she says, "I've had it." So people had it with the watchtower. So that's a wonderful thing. So I'm glad that's happening. So let's stop sharing this right now. And let's get back to our other news stories here. So that was the convention. We got a number of stories we'll talk about. And then we'll get into the top stories. And what do you think were the top stories? All right. How about now Selena Vertalo? I mean, she wasn't the top story in the watchtower, but she was probably one of the top stories in the ex-witness world. Do you remember Selena? Oh my goodness. Well, she actually came on the Six Screens and spoke up for the first time. And she did a TikTok video all about Toni Morris. Remember that? When she went down to Toni Morris's house in Lumberton, North Carolina, and she wanted to read Toni the riot. Well, she went to his Kingdom Hall, I should say, because he wasn't there. But let me play the clip. I think you'll find the clip fascinating. Let me just get in here and play the clip because you'll see what I'm talking about. Selena Vertalo. Let's share the screen here, and let's do that right now. Share the screen, and let's get Selena up. She goes to the Kingdom Hall in North Carolina, and you remember this. In fact, that TikTok video that went viral. She had over 1.5 million, a million and a half people that viewed that video. So Selena was all upset with Toni Morris. She claimed that he had problems with molesting children, or at least hiding it. So let's hear what Selena has to say. Let's hear it right now. Okay, Selena, let's do it.
Him Selena Vertalo came to see him.
Selena Vertalo.
Vertalo.
Hold on. Do you need to talk to him?
I think he needs to talk to me. He's responsible for the rape, stalking, and torture of myself, my sisters, and my mother. And I came down here to Lumberton, North Carolina to tell him my goddamn self, sir.
Did he rape you?
That his ass is grass and I'm the mower. His time has come. He has protected child rapists for long enough. He was relocated here to your nice Kingdom Hall. I understand you're a Christian congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. He is directly responsible. He is directly responsible for everything that has happened to me and my family. And I've come for him, and I will continue to come for him.
And what is your name?
Selena Vertalo. Looking for Anthony Morris. Toni Morris III.
Toni Morris?
Mm-hmm.
We'll end that right there. But you can see what I'm talking about. That's Selena. She came on our program, and that particular, well, that went viral. It went viral. And like I say, 1.5 million people saw that video. So that was something really big this year. And of course, she has a lot of bones to pick with the watchtower. So that was an interesting video she did. And it got people's attention. And we're going to talk more about Toni Morris because you have to know that was one of the top stories of the year, right? You have to know that. So anyways, let's see what else we get going on behind the curtains of the watchtower. Let's get back in here. Let's get to my my news convention items here as well. All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. How about this organization being too dangerous? Now, we reported all during the year 2023 about how dangerous it is to actually be one of Jehovah's Witnesses today. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh, come on, Rick, you're just trying to embellish here. You're trying to sensationalize. I'm not trying to do that, friends. There was a number of stories during the year 2023 that were very, very ugly in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses, like shootings and bombings. How about that one in Colorado? Now, even though that happened December, that would have been right about a year ago, was actually Christmas Day, that a man and his wife went to Kingdom Hall in Colorado. And when they got there a little early. And fortunately, it wasn't filled yet, but the man threw a pipe bomb through the window, and it didn't blow up, fortunately. But then he threw another pipe bomb through the window, and that one didn't blow up. And then he shot and murdered his wife in the parking lot of the Kingdom Hall, and then he shot and killed himself. So, that's not the only problem. I'm going to say this: if you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, or you want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you better get ready to send me an invitation to your funeral, as I've been saying, because there was a lot of incidents. We also had in Argentina, 2 pioneer sisters were stabbed. We talked about that on the news. We also talked about a pipe bomb that went off in Australia, blew a brother and sister's car up. We talked also about in Rockford, Illinois, how a man was actually shot in his car. Yeah, he was in service, and someone came up and shot him while he was sitting in the car. There are so many dangerous situations that have taken place in the Watchtower, and we'll even get into in the top stories with India and Germany. They were in the top, people got killed. Witnesses are now seeing that they have hurt so many people, they have ticked so many people off, that many people now are coming back and retaliating. Now, I don't think that's a good thing to do. I would never encourage that, but I believe that's exactly what is happening. So, we're not making this all up. If a person's even listening in and they say, oh, come on, Rick, did that really happen? Check it out. Check out Colorado Jehovah's Witness bombing. Sisters stabbed in Argentina. Check this all out. It's all there. So if you're a witness listening in tonight, and you go, oh, come on, Rick, check it out. Now, the other thing we noticed this year is the witnesses really, for 2023, really ramped up the cart work. Yeah, I mean, it was big time. They went to the Super Bowl in Arizona, Super Bowl number 57. And boy, I'll tell you, they were there all over the place. All the people going into the Super Bowl had to walk by the witnesses. And when you stop and think about it, this public witnessing with the carts really was big in 2023, even at the Kentucky Derby. Yeah, the Kentucky Derby, some people wrote me that were there. They said, Rick, on every corner of the Kentucky Derby, there were witnesses. No, really, when you stop and think about it, who was going to stop by on the way in to gamble, on the way in to have a good time, drinking their drinks, dressing up the way they do? Who was going to stop and talk to a witness on the way into the Kentucky Derby or even to the Super Bowl? Nobody's going to do it, really, when you stop and think about it. But it's not just a Super Bowl. The witnesses were showing up, and we talked about it. In fact, they showed up, I believe it was last August, they showed up at a gay and transgender march. And a bunch of atheists were marching as well. And that was very odd. And I'm saying, what in goodness name's sake are they doing? The witnesses, what are they trying to be in someone's face here doing this? They actually showed up and were in right at the parade where the transgenders and the gay people were, and the atheists as well. And I mean, were they asking for trouble? Kind of like in the days of Rutherford, where he actually wanted to have the witnesses have persecution come down on them. and get it written up in the paper, and the poor witnesses, they're picked on. So, something quite unusual there. I found that very much hard to believe that story, but they were there. Check it out. Well, if anyone would like to say something, I want to wish everyone a happy new year. If anyone would like to say something, come on now. Say hello to me. You're on the 6 screens. Go ahead and hit *6. What are you guys thinking out there tonight? You're just sitting back and relaxing? Well, I don't blame you if you are. But what do you think? Do you think we'll get some top stories? I want to have you share your thoughts with us as well. And I'm going to open up the lines right now. I'm going to give you the top stories, but I want to see if you're on the same page as I am. Now, what do you think were some of the top stories in the Watchtower for 2023? See if we're all on the same page here. Go ahead. Go ahead and hit *6. Well, I mean, maybe you don't want to. All right. Well, I'll go forward here. I'm going to count down here. And tell you what I think were some of the top stories in the Watchtower. Let's start off here. Let me just find it. You want to say something? Go ahead. You're on with us. Hold on one second. Linda, do you want to say something? Your phone's not working right. Okay, Linda, your phone's not working right. It's making a lot of noise. Come on down back and see what happens. But, okay, Dick, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I was just switching phones over. I just wanted to comment on something that Anne Marie said earlier. She talked about that if you sin and you're disfellowshipped, that God Almighty will not hear your prayer. That's such a lie, and it's in one of the songs, and it says that prayers that are heard. Well, our Heavenly Father hears all of our prayers. If He elects to, to act on it, that's His prerogative. But they teach Jehovah's Witnesses, if you've committed a sin, don't go to your Heavenly Father. Go to the elders, because that's the only way your sin can be washed clean, is to go through the elders, and they're connected with Jehovah. And I just want the audience to know how wrong that is. If you're repentant of any kind of sin that you've committed, our Heavenly Father, He reads your heart, and if you are repentant, your sin is forgiven. You do not need to go to 3 clowns in a judicial meeting. Thanks. Look, I just need to say that.
Well, that's exactly right. But that's how they do it, Dick. That's how they do it. It's disgusting. Disgusting. Well, thank you, Dick. All right. 860. You're on with us. Go ahead, 860.
Hi.
Hello.
I probably have this crazy of a story. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. I probably have a crazy story like that Selena woman. I won't share it right now because it's way long. But Cliff Notes, I would say, when you think about it, first we got the announcement of, what was it? No, the beards were okay. Then we got, are you there?
I'm here. Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so beards are okay.
Yeah.
We're not counting time. That was so funny to listen to them saying, because we've got better things to do than counting time. Like, we haven't been saying that all along. Good grief, Anyways, the beards, not counting time. And what is the other one? The secret acting gigs. We're going to be sending out secret invitations for acting jobs. And if you get one, don't tell anybody, because these are, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Some car just, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, I said, there's the secret acting gig.
Yeah.
Remember the image? So what is the secret? Like, do they really have a lack of human beings to fill their acting roles out of all those places that they have over there in New York? Give me a break. If they're sending out secret invitations for an acting gig, to individual congregations and so on and so forth. And we can all wear beards now, and we don't have to write down where we are and what we did. I'll tell you what that is. That goes right along with the reaching out to local communities, just beautifying the town and stuff. Baloney. They're paying off the local sheriff's departments and police to stalk any ex-witnesses or even family members of Jehovah's Witnesses, or just any person who catches them doing a crime, and you say, no, my dad's recorded legal witnesses are right here. That's not what he wanted. And they just think they can walk in and say, well, I don't care if he's 2 to 4 hours from death. You know what? As far as I can see, he looks fine, and he's under no duress, and here's this new healthcare policy. And the hospitals are so scared they're going to get sued, they just go along with it. Well, they didn't count on me. Because once I realized what they pulled the second day in, I wore a recorder the whole time. And that was a good long month of hell. And they have been stalking me and they have, like I said, they have the police involved. I mean, nobody comes home one day and there's a cut, like literally with a plunge cut saw tool, their lock on their door has been cut. There's a pile of sawdust and metal. And their dad, who normally, if he was going to be home past 5:30, he would darn sure be letting me know. And it's 8:30 at night. And yet he's not answering the phone. So I called the cops about a missing parent and a break-in. They get there and they start saying all these weird accusatory questions. Like, they didn't make any sense, and they didn't want to hear anything about my dad. And my dad had almost died a few months earlier. So, I was really worried. And they didn't want to hear anything. And they kept asking me these weird questions like, man, were you planning on taking a bath? I'm like, no. Did you know your tub's full of water? I'm like, no. You mean to tell me you didn't know that? I'm like, no. I have no idea how that would happen. And then he started asking me more weird accusatory questions. Next thing you know, they're forcing me to get in an ambulance and doing nothing about my dad. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I can't find my dad. I've never had a text in my life from my dad. All of a sudden I have a text that's like a mile long. It doesn't even read like he speaks. And my 3-letter name is spelled wrong. And the cop is doing nothing except for telling me I need to get in the ambulance. I'm like, well, nobody got hurt. I mean, I'm not hurt. Am I bleeding and I don't know it? I'm not getting in the ambulance. But the way he was so demanding about it, I was like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was getting scared. So I went. They're trying to gaslight their butts out of everything. They're trying to literally gaslight them. Like, they're telling me anything they got caught on, oh, no, that didn't happen. Oh, I didn't see that. It's like, okay, I'm not 4. You can't change realities and narratives with me. This is like ridiculous. And that's what the police are trying to do. Trying to tell me they literally didn't see a cut open bolt lock. I think that because my dad had money, because they're taking it all now, they drained all the bank accounts. I mean, they have got strategically placed moles in all different government institutions and entities. And I'll say, and the other thing is this, that communications company. They own a communications company. Now, do you know how much information they've got to be privy to whenever you own a communications company?
Well, what communication company is it, do you know?
No, I don't know that. And I believe it might even be just their one that they bought that's for their own. But like the way they talk, the way they present it in New York and the town meetings and so forth, is like it's just a thing that they're going to use around their own compounds.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Either way, if you own one, at some point it does have to be hooked up to the, I can't think of the terminology for like the main public internet for the world. It's got to be hooked up there somewhere.
So now, sister, you have you been out for a while? Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. Have you been out for a while?
Yes, I was. My dad joined when I was 5, and my parents were getting a divorce, and I started going.
Your phone's cutting out on us. Yeah, we can't hear you. Yeah.
What now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear a little better now. Yep.
Okay, sorry. I'm literally. Okay, sorry. I won't even go into what I'm going on to now, but yeah. When I was 17, I moved out on my own. I wasn't like I was a hater or anything, but I would hear crazy stuff all my life about Jehovah's Witnesses, but I never saw that myself. Yeah. Besides the demon crap, and that was a bummer as a kid. Stuff like master smoke classes. First the demon eyes. Okay, that was weird. Like I knew there were strange stuff, or strange birds, but they're good eggs, is what I always say.
Well, no.
My dad, I don't think they're evil, but I had no idea. I have had like people I know all my life. people. I love people. I would want that help. And all of a sudden, they tell me my dad just changed his mind. Sorry. Said 10 days in the ICU. My dad's like, no, I didn't even realize that was on there.
Yeah.
No, I want my daughter to be my healthcare proxy. Well, when I went to go do the healthcare proxy and fix it, they went behind my back to the doctors. None of these people are blood relatives. I'm my dad's only child. Lied like they were blood relatives.
Yeah.
Said, like, they're all kumbaya, which is baloney. My step siblings that are Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, well, what we're going to do here, we're trying to stay on the news. So, do you have some news article you want to explain to us?
The news movie is this. It's this reaching out to communities is very dangerous.
Yeah.
They're trying
Yeah.
to get away with what they're
Yeah. Well, thank you, sister. Thank you, sister, for coming in. We got a lot of people wanting to come in, but thank you for calling into the Six
I'm
Queens.
telling you, this community policing is what's going on.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with
So
us.
they are involving the police and harassing the members.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it.
The sheriff's department.
I wouldn't doubt
The
it.
sheriff's department.
All right. Well, thank you for calling. Thank you for
I
calling.
have a 100% winning police, New York State police case.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, literally, they.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. We're going to move on. We're talking about the news here tonight. Now, when you come on some night, you want to explain your story, we'll love to have you do it. All right, let's go to. It looks like Thomas. You on with us, Thomas? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just
Muted.
about all this stuff. The Watchtower, they do all this kind of stuff just so they can try to get people's money, brainwash them and keep them pinned in. And we're really seeing the bad effects of this organization. We hear about all this going on, even like small massacres. I just hope we're doing worse, but Rick, I'm just afraid we're going to more and more of this stuff because people are just so fed up and they don't know what to do about it. It just drives them nuts, insane, and they really don't turn to the right sources. They just keep going back to Watchtower. Watchtower says, well, pray more, study more, read more, and all this kind of stuff. And that's the wrong place to be, but they don't think so.
Well, we've got we got a lot of people like you, Tom, that really are fed up with them. You're glad to see this thing coming down, so keep hanging in there. Thank you, Tom. All right, so let's go to Anonymous. Let's go to Anonymous calling in right now. You want to speak up? Go ahead. Hit *6. Go ahead. You're on with us. I'm not going to use your name, but it begins with a J. Begins with a J. You want to come on, Anonymous? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Did we all, did Rick get kicked off or something? It's
No.
just us?
No, I mean, can you hear me, Eric? Can you hear me, Eric?
Hi, Eric. Is that you?
Yeah, this is Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Can you hear me, Eric?
Oh, is this Tim from Australia?
Yeah. Or one of them.
Hey, how you doing, buddy? Something must have been wrong, so technical difficulty.
Yeah, I just was wondering, like, I kind of have the YouTube feed on just for the comments, but I call it, so I can't hear the sound. I'm wondering, quiet there.
I do the same thing, so I can see the comments, and then that way I can like type in at any time, or you can hit hold on your phone and then watch the YouTube thing, and then unhold it.
Unmuted.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. We lost. Might be another.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Well, it's good. Yeah, we can hear you, buddy.
Yeah, we can.
All right, somehow it got muted. But anyways, that's good. What did you want to say, Eric? Anything particular?
Oh, I guess while you got me here, I did have a comment. Who would have known that in 2023, the biggest controversy would have been the thing around my chin? Maybe I did influence them, Rick. But seriously, I know that David, a couple weeks ago, he was all, you guys being crybabies about it and stuff. It's just that when you're micromanaged to such a degree, and then they backtrack on what they've punished you for having for so long, and then they're like, hey, we're going to tell you how to feel on top of it. If you feel this way and if you feel that way, well, that's not the appropriate feeling. Get the hell out of here. This is ridiculous. I get to decide how I feel, guys, how I think. And I think it's ridiculous that that they're pushing this so much. They know that there's going to be division. So they're like preemptively saying don't be divided, but they're causing the division and they can't see it. They're the most stupidest They're the stupidest guys I have ever met in my life. You know, you hand the keys to the kingdom to somebody and they ruin it. Like the other governing body members, they must be pretty upset with the legacy that they left behind, because they took billions of dollars corporation and just driving it to the ground.
Well, that's exactly
But
what.
I thought it was phenomenal that in 2023 that beards would be the biggest story.
Well, that is, in fact, we're going to discuss that just a little bit. I mean, I came up with a bunch of other stories here. No, that's all right. No, we're going to get into the beard thing, because I'm going to tell you where that came in. And it's in the top 5. So yeah, thank you, Eric, for chiming in.
Can I make one more point? Because
sure.
I didn't get to talk about Anne Marie's show. I just want to leave the audience with this, because a lot of people say that the fellowshipping arrangement and everything, they feel bad for the witnesses. I want to ask the audience, don't you think that it's possible that some of these witnesses, like my mother and mother-in-law, they just get off on it because of the power and control, and they get to treat people like crap? Because some people actually enjoy doing that, Rick, you know? And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks, guys.
Oh, they do. I mean, do you get the feeling, Eric, that witnesses love to rub it in? I find that. I used to find that.
Yeah, my mother-in-law, she loves to rub it in. Oh, she's everybody else's conscience. She even tells people at work, don't swear around me. You can't swear. It's the Bible says. Can you imagine that, Rick? You're a grown-ass adult, and some woman is at work is telling you not to swear. I mean, come on.
Exactly. Like they're the morality.
What is this, Nazi Germany? Oh, Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Like they're the morality.
No, they love to rub it in. I found that. I mean, they'd find one little thing that they could really push you on, and man, they wouldn't let loose. So yeah. All right, thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Okay, I think we got Fran and Joe. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for speaking up, Eric. I appreciate, that you're defending yourself. I think that if people were doing that more, they wouldn't get away with what they're doing. And honestly, I think the responsibility it really is on us, on whoever is left in that organization. The problem is they're behaving like sheep, and they're not sheep, but they're behaving like sheep, and they're being treated like sheep, and they're not guarding their rights as a human being. And frankly, if that's the case, they're getting everything they deserve. I don't know how to say it any other way. But if a person fails to guard their valuable things, it will get stolen from them, and they're being stolen from. We're not putting up with it. You're not putting up with it. Anyone getting out is through with that. And so long as people stay in that organization, they're supporting that vile behavior. They're supporting it. I understand there's PMOs in it, but unfortunately, they're in the between a rock and a hard place. They're supporting the very thing that's abusing them. They can do something about it. It's going to help everybody. Thanks, Rick.
Well, very, very good, Joe. No, good comment. It's something to really think about. As long as you stay in this organization, you are supporting it. And when people see that this is as bad as it possibly can be, they should be looking for the exit to it. Now, I know some people can't do it right away, but don't stay in this thing. You guys have got to look at it and say, man, I don't know. Now, there are extenuating circumstances where a person can't leave. They might be renting a house, an apartment from a witness. They might be working for a witness. So, I mean, you can really land up in some terrible straits. So, I want you 860. Could you just? I know you keep unmuting yourself, 860, but let's give some people.
Oh, I thought I was doing that. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Apostle Babe.
Okay, I would like to disagree with my Uncle Joe. I don't think that they get what they deserve if they remain in the Kingdom Hall. I believe it's an abuse of power from the leadership. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, Linda, let's just develop that a little further. So I think Joe was talking about people that, know it's wrong and stay in it.
I did not know that. I did not hear that context.
Yeah.
I'm here going, I don't think I agree with that at all.
Yeah. Well, no, I've often said that. You know, there are people that could get out, but they don't. But there is extenuating reasons. But most people, if they know this is bad, they should head for the exit door. You know?
Yeah.
Just
Okay,
all right.
that's all I wanted to
All right.
say.
Well, thank you, Linda. Thank you. 714. Go ahead. You run with us. 714.
Hi, Rick. It's Nadine.
Hi, Nadine.
Hi. How are you? And Happy New Year to you.
Well, thank
I
you.
wanted to say that in case I don't get to do that at the end. I wanted to say that. But
Well, thank you.
you're welcome. One of the big things that happened this year that was dropped at the annual meeting in October that has not been posted to jw.org yet is that disfellowshipped ones, disassociated, people who are not witnesses, that they can come back at the end of the Great Tribulation with no judgment. That's one of the big ones, but it's not posted yet. The witnesses do not know about that yet. Hopefully, it's supposed to be posted in January, but I think that's a big one.
Yeah, yes, it is. In fact, that is a big one. In other words, you can repent in the very last hour, so to speak. That is a big one. Yep. And that hasn't always been the case, but they're changing everything, Nadine. Everything.
No, I know. But I do think the biggie is the beards. I really do. It's causing a lot of issues. My friend, I have an update. My friend, her dad's an elder, and he was up on the podium just last week, and he said from the podium, he said, wow, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He went up to 12 people that are growing beards, and one of them is an elder. He said that from the platform and like disapproving. And he also said, to try to make light of it, he said, my wife won't let me have one because it grows in patchy. So he was trying to be very telling his real true feelings and then trying to make a little joke at the end to try to soften it. But he said that from the platform.
Well, that is something, Nadine. No, I've been hearing that. I've been hearing that a lot of brothers are growing beards. It's unreal. They're doing it fast. They're not wasting any time.
Right. And it's disapproving from the elders that are older.
Yeah, so I mean that's one of the biggest stories, and we'll talk a little more about that. That's one of the biggest stories of the year. Now you're probably wondering where does it come in, but I'm going to tell you in just a while what I feel is the top 5 stories and where they fit.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Nadine, for coming in. All right.
All right. Happy New Year.
Well, same to you. Now,
thank you.
One thing we noticed this year too is the Watchtower Public Information Department, PID. Well, they really have made a real concerted effort to have these infomercials. Robert Hendricks, you know him? Well, he's been all over the place on local TV channels and the newspaper, and how he really is promulgating the witnesses and promoting them and telling the world how great the Jehovah's Witnesses are. These are paid infomercials. And we've talked about Robert Hendricks a lot. Just so you know who he is, I'm going to share it right now so you get a little idea. This is Robert Hendricks. Let's listen in and let's hear what he has to say.
Printing organization, largest printing organization on the planet for years. Our Watchtower magazine has 80 million copies.
These are all propaganda pieces, and they're using this guy Hendricks. He's a real snake, and they're using him to come out and tell the world how wonderful the Jehovah's Witnesses are. And he's in here saying about the largest printer. And let's just move forward here. I want you to see him. All right, listen to him.
Right. Well, I think that's so important that you touched on that. Obviously, kids are learning very differently now, and since going through the pandemic, even more so, being online even more. And so talk to us a little bit about how your program works and how somebody can get involved in it.
The program is very simple. You can go right on your own, go to jw.org and go to the Enjoy Life Forever. And that's the interactive Bible study program. It can be downloaded on an iOS, on Android, on a web browser. And
Android, a web browser. And what basically it is it's meant to be a conversation, right? So it's meant to ask a question, have some thought, have a video that provides a dramatization, maybe it's a modern day drama.
All right, so you can see what's going on there. It's all propaganda, folks. It's all propaganda. These are paid. These are paid commercials. And the Watchtower is taking advantage of that. And they're trying to attract people. They're trying to attract people. Hendricks comes out. He doesn't tell you all the bad things about Jehovah's Witnesses. He only tries to tell you the good things. But it's all a bunch of lies. So we've seen a lot of Hendricks. I mean, he probably in 2023, he did, I would say, at least 25 to 30 public announcements on the Jehovah's Witnesses and how wonderful they are. All right, let's stop sharing right there. And let me go back here now so that we can get in here and see what's going on. Well, anyways, you're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But we talk about it every Saturday night and every other Sunday right here on the Six Screens Tele-Network. Okay, let's get back in here. Let's take a look at some of the big stories that we came across for 2023. And I'm going to start here. I'm going to start with number 5. Number 5 had to do with the bombing in India. I'm going to give that to number 5. That's the 5th top story in the Watchtower. It was back in October 29th, I believe it was. And it was a terrible thing. 3 people were killed. A young girl was burned to death. It was a terrible thing. And that's why I'm saying that, they're finding out too that these bombings and even the shooting that they had in Germany, for the most part, why is this happening? Is it because the Watchtower irritated these people? Did the Watchtower shun these people? I know in Germany that seemed to be the case. The man who shot up, that's the number 4 story, was a Germany story in Hamburg, Germany, where a man, an ex-witness who was disfellowship just a week before it all happened, went back to the Kingdom Hall and shot a number of people. 7 people, I believe it was, died, and it was terrible. And this is something that you have to take to and think about it. This is a serious thing. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, and there's so many people that are against the organization, would you feel safe sitting in a convention? It's a sad thing. And the Watchtower, they really don't do too much for security. I would hope, in view of some of the issues they had in the last year, 2023, that they would kind of bolster up their security, because they do have a lot of enemies. They have a lot of enemies, and we hope it doesn't happen again, but more than likely it will continue on. Even that Hendricks guy we just showed you, he kind of indicated that there's going to be more and more of this in one of the propaganda films he did, that there's going to be more and more of this. He's calling it hatred to Jehovah's Witnesses, persecution. But it's a terrible story. So I would say number 5, the number 5 story in the Witnesses for 2023 is the bombing in India. And then I'm going to go with the number 4 story, would be in Hamburg, Germany, where there was a shooting and 7 people died there. That was terrible. And in Germany in particular, like I said, that was actually, that act or that crime was committed by one that was a former Jehovah's Witness. And he was just disgruntled. He did not feel like he was treated fairly. Now, you never go and do that, but he went back to the Kingdom Hall and shot some people up and killed them. A terrible, terrible thing. So I go with that as 4, 5, and 4, India and Germany. But what do you think was number 3? What do you think was number 3? As a matter of fact, if someone wants to guess number 3, I'll give them a prize. I'll give them a prize here. What do you think the 3rd top story in the Watchtower was for 2023? What do you think? Anyone want to take a guess at it? All right. Well, I put the number 3 story. The acting Attorney General, Henry, well, she's in Pennsylvania, and she announces charges against 5 Jehovah's Witness men. Well, that would have been around last January, February, right at the end of January. So that's when they first came out and started investigating the witnesses in Pennsylvania. And boy, did we get a mouthful from them. I mean, all during 2023, the witnesses in Pennsylvania were being investigated And initially, there was 5 Jehovah's Witness men that were brought when they were arrested for sexual abuse of children across Pennsylvania. And then we also learned as time went on that another 3 men. And now every single congregation in Pennsylvania is being investigated by the Attorney General's office for covering up sexual child abuse. And so every elder is being questioned. There's over 500 congregations in Pennsylvania, and they're all being investigated. So let's play a little clip here. I do have a clip of that. This was an excellent clip, and I found that a lot of ex-witnesses listened to this because it really was something else. It really showed how ugly the witnesses are. If I can find the clip here, I'm not sure I even have it, but if I can find it, fine. If not, right here it is here. All right, let's play the clip. Let me just see if I can't bring it up. This Attorney General, Henry, her name is, she is a pit bull. She is definitely a pit bull. I mean, she really comes after the witnesses big time. She doesn't let loose. But let me bring that clip on right now. Let's share it on the screen. And the Attorney General in Pennsylvania, her name is Michelle Henry. Let's listen to what she has to say.
Now, live from your local news source, this is ABC 27 News at Noon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Crummell. New at noon, 5 Pennsylvania men now charged with multiple cases of child sexual abuse. 2 are from the mid-state. All are Jehovah's Witnesses. The state attorney general says they use their faith to help commit these crimes. Sonica Bargo is live now in Harrisburg with the latest. Good afternoon to you, Sonica.
Good afternoon, James. Like you mentioned, these 5 men are all from the Jehovah's Witness community, but they were arrested in 4 different counties, including 2 men right here in the mid-state in Lancaster County. 42-year-old Abimael Valentine Matos and 44-year-old Norman Aviles are both charged in cases in Lancaster County. The 2 men assaulted the same 15-year-old girl at different times. The 3 other men are from Allegheny, Beaver, and Butler counties. According to the Attorney General's office, Aviles is still at large. The other 4 men have all been arrested. These arrests and charges came as a result of a grand jury investigation. Acting Attorney General Michelle Henry says some of these cases were uncovered when witnesses came forward following charges filed in October 2022 against 4 other Jehovah's Witness members. Henry says some of these men assaulted members of their own family or children they were babysitting, including victims as young as 5 years old. She said some used their position in their congregation
Well, that's Michelle Henry. I mean, that's quite the she's quite the woman. I mean, she really has been coming down really hard on the witnesses all during 2023. So I put that in there as number 3. That is the number 3 story. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. What do you guys think? I mean, what is that? When you first heard news about Pennsylvania, what were some of the things that ran through your mind? What were you thinking? Did you have the thoughts that I had? Man, this is really gonna put the frosting on the cake for the Jehovah's Witnesses. That this is, and it's going to. I still feel it's going to be a big event. There's going to be more arrests made. So what do you think about Pennsylvania? Go ahead, you run with us, Dick.
Yeah, more proof that Jehovah's Holy Spirit does not appoint these men, or our Heavenly Father, Holy Spirit, doesn't appoint these men. They're appointed by anybody. It would be Satan or devil.
Well, there you go. That's a good answer. That's proof. How could it be that you got a child molester? He's molesting little children, and he's appointed by God. I mean, that should be enough to get you out of the watchtower in a heartbeat. It really should be. Well, I mean, that story is going to create a lot of traction for many people, and many people are going to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses now. Even my father, who is not a witness, he lives in Pennsylvania. but he saw it down there. He saw it in the newspaper, how the Attorney General's office is coming down strong on the witnesses. It's all over the local news. It's in newspapers. How could you possibly miss it? And how could you not question it? If you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, why couldn't you question that? Why couldn't you go to an elder and say, hey, look it, did you see this in the Philadelphia Inquirer? Did you see this on the Reading News this week? Really? Are the witnesses brain dead? You would think that a person who is concerned about something that's right and just would see through this. You can't have a righteous and just organization where you have men doing this to little children. So we're going to hear a lot more from the Attorney General, I'm sure, in Pennsylvania. And boy, some of those acts was pretty well described in detail on what those guys were doing to those young girls. And it was participatory. You know, there were numbers like a ring of pedophiles in some of these congregations. And they're all taking advantage. A number of the elders were taking advantage of young kids. That is disgusting. I just can't see it. I think that you guys are listening in. I think that you're thinking the same thing I am. This is supposed to be Jehovah's true organization. This doesn't add up. Talk about total mind control. It has to be something like that. How could a person possibly just go along with all this? It doesn't in any way add up. I can't see why they are leaving. We are seeing more and more witnesses leave this year. I'll tell you what, 2023 is a year that is like a mass exodus. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses have left. And you can see that on the forums, for example, on Reddit. For example, even here on the 6 screens, we have so many more people calling in and new ones calling in. And all these YouTube videos, they have more and more people viewing them. Why is that? Because there's more and more Jehovah's Witnesses leaving. They're packing their bags and saying that's it. And there's going to be a lot. 2024, the hemorrhage is going to get worse. And why won't it? We have nations. Right now, there's a number of nations, governments that are coming down on the Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, Norway, look at the problems they had in Norway this year in 2023. That's another big story. That they lost their charitable status. In Norway and many European countries, in fact, all European countries, the Watchtower gets money. They get money from the government according to how many members they have. So the more members the Watchtower has, the more money they get from the government. And the government considers a charity status. But Norway said, hey, wait a minute, Jehovah's Witnesses, you're not treating your people right. We have young kids in Norway that are being shunned by their parents. They're being kicked out of their homes because they don't want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So in Norway, they took away close to $2 million a year that they were getting. So the Watchtower actually, as we all know the story, they tried to fight it. They appealed it, but they lost. They lost because Norway said no. But now it has a ripple effect. Now it's also gone into Denmark. It's gone into Belgium. It's gone into Sweden, the United Kingdom. And we know Australia has been investigating the witnesses. Canada is now investigating the witnesses. So this is all happening. I'm not making this up. So governments, one time all of us apostates, we kind of had to go on our own and we weren't making much traction. But now we have the government's attention. The governments are going, okay, let's look into this. Japan is another example. Have you been following what's going on in Japan? Just in the last couple of months, the Japanese government is ticked off with the Jehovah's Witnesses big time. In Japan, they first investigated the Jehovah's Witnesses because a bunch of ex-witnesses came forward. And they told the government in Japan how brutal and how difficult it was for them when they were younger and how they were flogged. They were beaten by their parents with a stick or a spoon. So the government started looking into it. And they got very upset that the Watchtower physically abused people like that. But then the Watchtower, the government of Japan, they then started to realize that, whoa, it doesn't stop here. It now is going on to another abusiveness, sexual abuse. So they started off with physical abuse. And now Japan is saying, wait a minute, we didn't realize so many young kids were being sexually abused. So we got Japan all upset with the witnesses. You get countries, and then that's going to have a rippling effect. That they're doing everything they can to soft pedal this. They don't want the witnesses hearing this. They don't want the witnesses hearing that, they're being investigated in countries. That's the last thing they want the witnesses to hear. And of course, they're just going to tell them the countries are picking on them. They're just going to mention that, oh, the witnesses, the people are picking on us, persecution. It's not persecution. It's legitimate. It's crime. It's crime. So I wanted to bring that up. We now have, it's not just a few of us apostates out here, coming down on the watchtower. That they have more to worry about than us. They have governments that can take a lot of money from them. A lot of money, like in Norway. Very fascinating. Very, very fascinating. It's been a year to remember. I've been doing this JW World News and recap for going on 19 years. And there's never been a year like this one. Never, ever, ever. This was a year of tremendous momentum. And the ex-witnesses have been sucking it right up. Don't you love to hear it when this Watchtower organization is feeling the pain? I do. I mean, I'm not trying to be some type of a masochist of some type, but boy, do I love to hear it when they're suffering the pain, because these guys really have hurt too many people. And now the tide has turned. Now people are realizing that this Watchtower is a terrible organization. And I have to say this, I believe the organization is really dead. It just hasn't fallen over yet. I really mean that. I don't know where they can go. How can you go forward? If you're in a business, let's say you make a product, and if the product isn't selling, and the product has caused a lot of damage and harm, like right now that, I don't know if you've seen it on the news in the last couple of days, but that jet blender, you've seen it advertised for Christmas. Oh, now they have to recall them. The thing is starting on fire. It's a little blender. Blades are falling off and cutting people. It's starting on fire. How far can a product like that go? Well, that reminded me of the Watchtower when I heard that. Geez, they're tarnished. They're cooked. How can you sell this to the people when people realize it's junk? And then what I'm also thinking, we'll talk about the beards, and we'll talk about some of the other changes they made this year with the time. We know that was also a change, right? On how they no longer have to report time. That was a big story. So that took place in November. The Watchtower said, no, you don't have to report time anymore. Just let it go. Now you do have to, there's a time card per se, or a record sheet, and you mark on there if you don't have to put hours down, but you mark on if you talk to someone or you witness with a cart or whatever. But you don't have to report time anymore. And I just have an idea why they're doing this. My idea is why they made changes to the time reporting, to men now having beards, to even what Nadine talked about earlier about repentance in the last hour, so to speak. I think what they're trying to do is they want to get this Ramapo built. Now, Ramapo, I'm sure you all heard of it. I'm preaching to the choir here, I know. But Ramapo is up there in New York, and it's a town in New York, and they want to put a large 1.5 million square foot building in Ramapo, New York, to create an audio-visual company where they produce videos. And they need a lot of money for this. They need, in fact, the numbers have been floating around. It could be as much as $500 million, like 500 million. And how are you going to raise money? How are you going to get all that money in? And you're trying to recruit new people, but people coming in say, geez, I don't want to be a witness. I don't want to have to go out and report time. Geez, I don't want to have to be a witness. I like my beard. Go ahead.
I think the reason why they are letting them grow beards and why they're not reporting their time is because they would be arrested for stalking. They really are doing an organized stalking campaign. Like when that Selena Dec was talking about how Tony Morris was talking about apostates and he had that match. And he goes, I mean, really, I just be happy when they're all, gone. Now, her house got set on fire after that. And they are harassing people. I'm not some drama queen. I've never said that. I've never said anyone stuck. I mean, in my life, I didn't even know it was going on for the first 9 months or a year or so. I didn't even know it. Man, you just keep saying things. You just think, so here's the thing with the beard. Was it Movember? So that would be November. November is whenever guys just in general grow them for the cause of November, which I forget what the cause is. But you know how guys all grow beards a lot of times in November? So this is October, and I was like, man, what's up with the beards? Like, what are they carrying? And I keep seeing like, this isn't a Jewish. I see that many beards, but I don't see any ringlets. What the heck's going on? And I was like, oh, you dummy, that's because it's November's next month. Well, November came and went, and the beards are all around me. I've never seen more guys with beards and more hoods over the, like, sweatshirt hoods. I mean, I know I sound like a paranoid nut, but nobody that rides around me long enough, they don't think so anymore. And if you start helping me, then they'll come start pestering you. I mean, I got injured, and the person that was helping me, next thing you know, he was working on a job that was way up a dead-end road, up of another dead-end road on a private lane. And she said, there's only 4 houses up here. He goes, I've never seen more strangers go that far out of their way. Just go for a nice walk on a summer day. When there's beautiful roads all around here, why would you go? I said, it's because you were there. That's why they wanted to investigate you. I mean, they are severely scared because they're losing their tax status, they're losing their religious status. And when he said it's war on apostates, remember, Selena said that too. He meant it. That's why they're not writing down their time. Remember in the 90s when some of them got arrested and stuff for stalking? Well, this is a much more organized, and they have the added benefit of the digital aspect.
Right.
I mean, never mind. I mean,
okay. We're not going to go that deep. We're going to stay pretty much on the subject here. We wouldn't have to do that.
Well, this is news, don't you think?
To some degree, but I mean, we don't have to hear it all. So it's news, yeah. So we appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Don't you think that would be their motive? Is that they're being threatened in different. And another thing is they're not really. They are a danger to society. Never mind the pedophile stuff, but also the whole Second Kings with the bad angel thing. I mean, when you really read that, that's like a terrorist playbook because of their the way that they say words to make you think that you guys are both big word semantics.
All right, we're gonna cut it there. I appreciate your comment, sister. I really do. But we'll give some others a chance to talk. Thank you. All right. So, anyways, the number two story was Tony being swept under the rug. Yeah, we're gonna go with that. But number 2, what do you think about that? Well, that was back in February, and all of a sudden on JW.org, it was only up for 3 days. And all it said is Tony Morris. Anthony Morris is no longer one of the governing body members. That's all it basically said. And so 3 days it was up and then gone. And we all wondered, all of the ex-witnesses wondered, well, why is Tony Morris, well, what happened to him? Why isn't he a governing body member anymore? Everybody had their own thoughts on it. Some people thought that he was involved with maybe the pedophilia rings going on in Pennsylvania. Some thought that maybe he was a bona fide alcoholic and the Watchtower caught up on him. There were a number of stories floating around, but was he a troublemaker? Maybe he wasn't going along with all of these changes, and you could see them coming ahead. So maybe that was the reason, but who knows? We still don't know to this day, but the Watchtower actually bought him a house. Yeah, they bought him a house in Lumberton, North Carolina. And he moved in there into the neighborhood and goes to the Lumberton, North Carolina Kingdom Hall. So it was just an odd thing. It wasn't like a Ray Franz, for example, that left the Watchtower and the Watchtower didn't have anything good to say about him. I mean, they're not saying anything good about Tony either, but at least they bought him a house. I don't get it. What do you think? Well, why did the Watchtower buy Tony a house? What's your feelings on that? Did you think about that? I think about that a lot. Why would the Watchtower buy Tony a house? He's no longer a governing body member. Why would they do that? Dick, go ahead.
They're trying to buy his silence because he knows where all the bodies are buried.
Well, Dick, I mean,
he knows too much.
He knows too much. Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. I'll have to go.
Think about it.
Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. So yeah, that's good. So I'll go with that. He knows too much.
I mean, they don't want him as an enemy. That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just disfellowship that dude. He could go off and rock the whole organization to the core. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can't just say, "Now we're done with you. You're disfellowship."
Yeah.
You better be nice to your enemies. Is just, you know, that many dead bodies are buried. You know, Tony Morris.
Yeah.
You got too much information.
Yeah. Well,
they got 2 houses, didn't they?
Actually, I believe it was 1, but I don't know. I did hear 2, but I can't confirm that. Yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe it was Kim and Mike. It said there was 2 on that street, basically, and they're both.
Yeah. I don't know for sure. Yeah.
Or whatever.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry I said that. I'll let you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. So the number 4 story. The number 4 story, we just talked about it. They stopped reporting time. Now that had to make many witnesses happy. Well, that would happen in November. No more reporting of time. Geez, you'd have to be happy over that. Who liked going out in service? What a pain in the neck that was. You know, getting in the car, driving to Kingdom Hall. You got kids, you got to dress them up, go down to Kingdom Hall, waste a whole Saturday and then even Sunday going out in service. Who would really enjoy doing anything like that? So that would really, all of a sudden, I would think that would give the witnesses a boost. But I'll tell you, that still wasn't the top story. I thought that would, when I first heard that back in November, I thought that was going to be, you know, the biggest story of the year. I mean, people were talking about like crazy, but it didn't seem to carry over. So I had to bring it in at number 4. So stopped reporting time. Who wouldn't like that? I'm sure they all did. That's for sure. And I'm thinking the reason why they stopped having people report is the Watchtower is bleeding members. They are hemorrhaging members. And this might be a way to slow that down. You know, it would be a good thing if you were still a witness and all of a sudden you heard them say, well, you don't have to really report time anymore. Geez, you'd be dancing in the street. Nobody really liked going out in service. They really, really didn't. So I think that's kind of fascinating. But it still wasn't the number 1 story. It still wasn't the number 1 story. So beards in the preaching work, that's going to be a huge problem. But the number 1 story in the Watchtower, there were more articles written about beards than anything else, than the Germany Kingdom Hall shooting, than the India bombing, than the reporting of time, than the Tony Morris problems. There were more things written about the beard than anything else in the Watchtower for 2023. What a big story that was. And, you know, I'm thinking, why was it? Why was this such a big thing? Well, why did the witnesses just go crazy over this? Well, I think even as Stephen Lett on December 15th, he did the JW Broadcasting live, well, it was a live stream, but it was a video they did on jw.org website. And on December 15th, they talked about this very thing. The brothers now can have a beard. And he even said, Stephen Lett said that it could cause divisions. And stop and think about that. It's causing divisions. And Stephen even said when he was talking to the audience that, you know, many brothers, they're going to feel like they were right all along because they really, they wanted to have a beard. And the Watchtower said no. But they said, well, you know, we don't really see any scriptural support for that. Why can't we have a beard? But the Watchtower would really be very adamant about it and never let the brothers grow a beard. Now, all of a sudden, they reversed their position here, and just in the last month, and December 15th is when they announced it. And as one person came on tonight, and people are writing me already, many of the brothers are already growing beards. So they're not taking long to do it. So this is something that really had legs. This thing really got some traction. And it's unbelievable how the Watchtower just reversed their position on it. But there's going to be some issues to be concerned with. Well, what type of beard can you have? Can you have a scraggly beard? Can you have like a Duck Dynasty beard or a ZZ Top beard? Can you have a goatee and a mustache too and long sideburns? And at what point are they going to try to regulate that? I'm sure they'll try to do what they can. But, you know, when I stop and think about it, this is going to create some problems. And I mentioned this last week, and I still feel this way. You know, when you see a man with a beard, now don't take this, if you're a man out there with a beard, don't take this that I don't like beards. And some men look very good with beard. But I'm going to tell you, a beard on a lot of men, it makes them look like they're sinister. It makes them look like they're suspicious. I mean, I'm not picking on men with beards. I'm not. But stop and think about this. Stop and think about if you're a householder and you're looking out your window and you see two men, you know, one man coming down the street with a ZZ Top beard and another man with a beard like LeBron James. I mean, are you going to open the door for these people? You think about it. I wouldn't. It just makes you look sinister. So this could be a huge problem for the Watchtower. It's very threatening to allow this, and the Watchtower just all of a sudden is going to let this happen. That is going to really rock the witness world here very, very much. I can just see that, you know, there are going to be people that they see men walking around the neighborhood like that with beards and a brief bag and a Bible. They're going to be itching to call the police. They would. They're going to say, geez, who are these men in the neighborhood? They're not used to witnesses having a beard. They've been used to seeing Jehovah's Witnesses being clean shaven. They had no idea. Now, the household has no idea about the change in the Watchtower policy. They're gonna assume that these guys are trying to steal packages or breaking people's homes. I mean, this is a real recipe for disaster. And that's my feelings on it. You guys might think otherwise, but I'm thinking that.
Hello, Rick.
Yes.
Hello.
Fred, yes.
Hi, Rick. Yeah, it's Fran. We had a report from someone who listens in at the meetings and in Long Island, and he reported that all the elders now have beards.
Wow. Boy.
Yeah, and he also said out of 100 publishers, half of them are on Zoom.
Now,
so that's just one station.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, friend, thanks for sharing that with us. Nadine obviously was saying it as well. Yeah, thank you very much for saying that. No,
You're welcome.
Yeah, just goes to show you that it didn't take them long, did it? Didn't take the witnesses long at all to jump into the ball game. So now they gave the brothers something. They gave them something. Now, someone wrote me, and I got thinking about this a lot. What are they going to give the sisters? They just threw a bone at the brothers. They can now grow beards. What are they going to do for the sisters? They got to do something for the sisters. Did you know that the sisters in the Jehovah's Witness religion make up most of the demographics? There are more women, way more women than men. And what's happening right now, I'm going to tell you something. Witness women, they are itching to get married. You know, when you're a woman, 19, 20, 21 years old, you're thinking about getting married. You're perhaps thinking about having children. You like to have a family. This is something that's normal. This is a normal way of life. So these sisters, they can really only marry a Jehovah's Witness man, but yet there's not enough Jehovah's Witness men to marry. So if they would do something here that a bunch of people had written me saying this might happen, it might happen. They're saying now the next thing will be is some of these sisters, not some of them, but all of the sisters will be given the right, or at least given the freedom to marry a non-believer. Now, I know you're saying, no, Rick, that would never happen. Well, not so fast with that. Stop and think about it. You have a Jehovah's Witness sister, and she meets a man at work, and she likes the man, and so she would like to get to know him. She likes him a lot, even though he's not one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But give it time and to watch how major say, fine. Does he love God? Can he study the Bible with you, sister? Well, look at all the people they could bring in. Look at all the people they could bring in. They're not having any success in the cart work. They're not having any success in the door-to-door work. But look at all the people they could bring in. by unbelieving mates becoming Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh, I tell you, I'm surprised. The Watchtower. I think that could be the next move. I don't know. Don't take it to the bank and cash it. And then some people have written me too and said, Rick, the next thing is the witness women can wear pants, like a pantsuit. And I never really totally understood why they couldn't anyway. There's nothing really scriptural about it. But geez, it's cold. If you're wearing a dress out there, I can't imagine what that would be like going on service with a dress in the middle of Wisconsin, or Massachusetts. It'd be freezing in the middle of winter. So, and then I've also heard that where these sisters can't find a husband, it's really frustrating them. That they're really at wit's end. As a matter of fact, there's thousands. I'm going to go on the record to say there's thousands of depressed Jehovah's Witness sisters in the drinking wine by the gallon. Those boxes of wine. Watch in a liquor store. Watch all the women buying these boxes of wine. You can bet your booty too that the Jehovah's Witness women are doing that because they really want to tie the knot, so to speak. There isn't a witness man to marry, so they're flirting with men at work. Oh, he likes me, but gee, I really can't get too close to him because I'm a witness. They know that can cause a lot of sisters to leave too, so I'm sure they're looking at that. I'm sure they are looking at that. So, what do you guys think? Am I a little over the top with that? Do you think? Well, what are they going to give the sisters? What are they going to give the sisters? What are your thoughts on that? What do you think they'll do? They got to do something. You're on with us, 519.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick.
Let's go.
I was thinking.
Let's go with 519, Susan. Then we'll bring you in. Go ahead, 519.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Just wanted to say that a lot of the sisters are watching the brothers to take the lead, and I think that there's going to be a couple of things. One are the noticeable reduction in carts being manned, so people aren't at the cart. Yep, and they're going to feel like, so one day we can go out preaching, we're supposed to go out preaching, and the next day nobody's going out anymore because we don't need to hand in time. The other thing is, your husband's adamant about a clean shave, and then in the next announcement, he's growing a full beard. So you're going to get these sisters who are in relationships, are married, looking up to their husbands and saying, who are you? And that's going to start a big, massive questioning in the female ranks. And that's all I have to say, Rick. Thank you.
Oh, protester, that is a good statement. That is going to happen. That's what's going to cause divisions right there. And even some of the sisters are going to say, geez, honey, you don't grow a good beard. I would say don't do it. And it's going to cause all kinds of fights and everything. So, okay.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, thank you. Susan, come on with us. Susan, come on. What do you have to say, Susan?
I was just thinking a simple thing they could allow sisters. They're allowing brothers' beards. They could allow sisters to wear pants.
Yeah.
Because that's very, women don't wear a lot of dresses today. They wear more pants and things like, more informal things. So I think they'll start letting them wear pants to the meetings.
Yeah.
The ministry would
Well,
go out.
You're probably right, Susan. Now, you were a pioneer when you were a younger lady up there in Wisconsin. I mean, was it cold in the winter with dress on?
Oh, there's only 2 or 3 times pants, and they were wool pants because it was freezing. If you've lived in Wisconsin or Michigan, somewhere like that, it's cold. I lived on the lake, so it was very cold.
Yeah.
And when it was like 10 below zero, it felt like 25 below zero. And you just can't make your time when you have weeks on end that are below zero temperatures. So we had to wear pants. You just couldn't go without them.
Well,
people didn't see them anyway because they had long coats on.
Yeah, that's crazy. My goodness gracious. Well, thank you, Susan, for sharing that with us. Well, let's go to
Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Rick. It's Tim.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. I'd agree with Susan maybe with the pants thing for women. And I've just got to make it, this probably sounds like a big call, but just my personal belief is
I think they're going to soften up just slightly with some of the rhetoric on the rainbow, the LGBTQ community. Personally, because what I see on YouTube is you don't see it on your channel. Like I would identify as right-wing conservative, but most of the ex-witness channels on YouTube, the biggest ones like Owen Morgan, Alt Worldly, they're pretty left-wing, and the biggest complaints that come across on those channels are always, oh, the witnesses are homophobic. They love that. It's one of their biggest topics and the most talked about. I would say it's a far bigger topic than what we realise on this channel and most conservative ex-witnesses would realise. And I don't look on Reddit much, but I have seen there's a lot of posts about that too. There's even groups that are or ex-witness of that community. And I reckon there must be a high percentage of witnesses that are secretly in the closet in one way or another, and they must still have a bit of an opinion. And I just reckon the witnesses might, that they're never going to condone it, but I can just see them softening up on some of the things they say, like, oh, you know, we love those people, they're not bad, or you know, just a backing off. I reckon it's even slightly started in the last few years. They've said things like, we don't hate those people, you know, and now there's a few. I noticed recently there was something where you actually mentioned a guy that was homosexual, but he was able to fight his tendencies because of, you know, obeying some BS watchtower things. That's just my thought, and I could be way off on that. Thanks, Rick.
Tim, you said the secret word. You said the secret term, watchtower thing. That was the secret word. So the duck's going to come down and give you $20. So where can we mail that to you? All right.
Gee, I could send you an email, but I know you don't want to reallocate these prizes either. Otherwise, I would have got you to send it to someone over there. I would have donated it on. I might mention that. I'll send you an email, Rick, and I might mention who I'd like to donate it to.
Yeah, well, we can't. We don't do that. So, yeah, because it just makes it too confusing. But thank you. You won anyways. But if you want me to send you something, send me an email anyway. See what we can do. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No problem, Rick.
Okay. Thank you. Well, it was a secret word. Yeah. There you go. All right. So, anyways, boy, I'll tell you what. You're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. Boy, I'll tell you, like I said earlier, this is a big year, 2023. Boy, the hemorrhage has begun. How many witnesses do you think have left the organization this year alone? It's got to be thousands. I'm even willing to go on the record. I would say 1 million. Now, maybe they haven't disconnected totally, but I would go on the record to say that 1 million have kind of disconnected, like in a chemo way, you know, physically in, mentally out. They're still going to the meetings. So, but I would say it's 1 million. On Reddit alone, there's like close to 100,000 people in there now they're writing about the Jehovah's Witnesses and their trek in it. We see new ones calling in here every night. So it's just changing. I would say 1 million people have given up on the Watchtower. Okay, 720. I think that's Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hey there, Rick. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good, really good show. Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, all these changes to me, sitting back and listening to them, are tipping points. There are points where a certain number seems like they wouldn't go for it. You know, the shrinking meetings, you know, we need to do this all the more so as you behold a day drawing near, and then they cut the meetings in half. Then they cut the hours down to, you know, whatever, 0. I think they still turn in time, but they're not required. And then, you know, all these different changes, they seem like they would be turning points for us, you know, what you might call old timers that have been in there. And there's a lot of old timers in there that have been in there since the 50s, 60s. And it seems like those would be turning points. If I had to shave my whole life for Watchtower, and then they came on and said, hey, Jehovah says, you know, you can have a beer. This has been ridiculous, or however they said it. It seems like that would be a tipping point for a certain number of them to either question or start to leave. And then the sisters, you know, what the hell's going on? What do you mean they could be half beers? like you said, what do we get to do? What do we get to have? But they seem like turning points. And I know this is a crazy perspective, but my thought is this. I just got to throw this out. Nobody has to agree. But if I was transitioning, if I ran out of false deadlines, if I ran out of prophecies, if I realized that everything's recorded and I'm making a total ass of myself, like Watchtower has with prophecies, and you can't say anything more than this is the last days of the last days, Stephen left, then you start doing some of these other things. So I'm thinking this, Rick, tell me what you think. You think that Watchtower wants the old farts to leave? I mean, these are big things, beards and, no time and all of this stuff that we were told we had to do all the more so as we behold the day, the last days, the end, so that we wouldn't become a part of the world. So it seems to me they're breaking vows that we have taken all our life with time and being active and busy and, and that sort of thing. And now it's like they just said, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. So do you think, Rick, and anybody else listening, do you think Watchtower is wanting a large percentage because they own the property? They sold them back to the governing body. And so why not liquidate the assets? And then if the younger ones are foolish enough to come back or to jump on the beard wagon and run around with beards and let it be. Maybe there's a swap of the new for the old. It just seems like they're trying to push the people away. What do you think, Rick? I don't know.
Well, it does.
I would be gone.
I've heard that a number of times. I would be gone too. I have to tell you the truth, Dan. If I was a witness now and I just heard the changes about the beards, I heard the changes about the time, I would say that's it for me. I'm leaving. It does. It's almost as though they are trying to, they could care less. Now, I have had information come into the 6 screens that people say they want the powers to be at the Watchtower. They want to cut it down to about 1 million elite Jehovah's Witnesses. Wealthy witnesses. Yeah, this is something that's been floating around.
That makes sense.
But I don't know for sure.
That makes sense. I never heard that, Rick. You know what else?
That does make sense.
Yeah, and I'm thinking this too. Here's another weird thought. But I was thinking of like this Watchtower always made a big deal when we went to the assembly that we won this case in Russia. We won this case somewhere in the world, and everybody would stand up and applaud. And now, like you said, we lost over here. And they're exposed right out in the open in the Australian Commission. They're exposed to pedophilia is popping up everywhere. And it's like, what was I going to say about that? It's like, here's what's happening with the world. The world, and I'm going to say this, Rick, it's going to sound horrible. The world did not realize what big of pricks were behind those fucking suits. And now they're seeing, I'm sorry, Rick, they're seeing now that these guys are amoral. They're consciencelessness. They're no good. They're hiding pedophilia and justifying it. They're hiding this and hiding
that. They're using that whole like at the Australian Emirates, whenever they interviewed what's his name, and he said, now Jehovah's Witnesses believe in being honest, right? And he says, oh yes, we believe in honest, yes, and being honest. And he says, so you speak honestly whenever you speak with people. Well,
all right, sister, let the man talk. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so I just, so I'm sitting back. I think all of us have not realized how harsh and how cruel and how destructive Watchtower was behind the suit. Because when I got out, I did not believe my mother was going to turn on me. I did not believe my father. My father was gone, but my mother, oh no, my dad too. But they disowned me. They just completely cut me off. And I'm like, no, this can't be real. Is this like real? And then Watchtower nailed nails, Rick, in my coffin. And not only mine, everyone else who left, they nailed, I just had a guy in my house. They nailed coffins in him. They took his wife away. His wife is long gone, never to return, because Watchtower's policies that they won't bend on destroyed him. They destroyed that man. He was just at my house for a week. And he said, my wife was like, I never knew her. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, you guys don't talk? He's like, no, she's gone, Dan, gone forever. And I'm like, oh my God. And he was married a bunch of years. And I don't think Rick people have realized behind that suit is not niceness. And it's only too late before we get bit in the ass. We look back and they say, those men mean business. And I had another guy write me today. You know what he said? He said, think about it, Dan. What's that meeting called, Rick, where they meet when you have when there's some problem in the organization?
Judicial hearing?
Yeah. He said, yeah, that's all Masonic. And I said, you're right. It is. We're going to have a judicial meeting. A judicial. This is Masonic. It's like, and it's cruel. And so anyway, Rick, I don't think Rick people realized, you know, we went around, but we were shiny on the outside. We wore these nice suits, did the presentations, we were polished up. But man, their policies of hurting one another, of cutting off family, I didn't realize how harsh and how cruel, and that's who these were. But so, Rick, to answer your question, the guys that are in these other countries are trying to chastise Watchtower and say, you know, Watchtower, you need to listen to us. You need to come forward with pedophile. And Watchtower is lying. Watchtower is saying, Watchtower is going, we didn't do that. And I think these governments are saying, don't play with us, little boy. And they're turning on us.
That's what I was trying to tell you about the thing where at the end where he says,
I'll say.
Yeah, let Dan talk. Let Dan talk. Go ahead, Dan.
Does that make any?
Yeah.
So does that make sense, Rick? That the governments are going, they're getting bit in the ass too. They're going, who do these people think they are? Who does this Watchtower lying think they are? They're watching the Australia Commission, the Japanese. They're going, look at these guys. They're flat out lying. Look at these thousands of people walking around saying the family abandoned them. They're lying to their teeth. And they won't come clean. They're acting like criminals. They're acting like criminals. And the people in the world, Rick, Japan, they're not stupid. People that work with criminal activity know criminals. So Watchtower is getting treated like criminals now. And it's like, whoa, and we're watching them, like you say, Rick, they're hemorrhaging, they're going away, and thank God, too many families have been destroyed, too many suicides, too many. Oh my God, Rick, I hear it every day. No person should have to walk away from a religion and end up in a mental ward. And I want to say this, those kingdom halls are mental wards. When you hear light is dark and dark is light, light is dark and dark is light, and the light got brighter, light went out, and the light got brighter, light got out. That's mental illness. That's schizophrenia. That's compartmentalization. And that is why we all have been in there. We've all been traumatized. You can't live in fear every day for 50 years and not think that that's not going to affect your mind and body connection. So I just wanted to say that, Rick, just share those couple of thoughts tonight.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, what you said. A lot of sense, Dan. We always love your passion and your commitment. People love that. You have been really hurt. You have been touched by this organization big time. And you have every right in the world to speak up against it like you do. Those guys are really.
I saw my family die in there, Rick. I mean, literally, I watched my mom. I saw healthy people rot.
Yeah.
After Watchtower took hold of their mind. When Watchtower got to hook their mind, promised them paradise, told them to do everything. I mean, my dad was God. My dad was God. I didn't even know my dad anymore. All we were was to be disciplined as kids. And my mother ended up in a mental ward. I grew up watching my mother in a mental ward. And every time I went in there, Jehovah's mad, Jehovah's angry, Jehovah's going to kill me. And I think, wow, to think Watchtower embedded their minds with fear, doubt, worry, shame, and guilt. And I remember my dad. Are you there?
Okay.
I remember my dad coming home, trying to raise 4 boys, working on construction. And I remember him having to take my mom to the mental ward. And I remember the elders coming over saying, Mel, we didn't see you out in service Saturday. Are you having a Bible study with your kids? And my dad died in the witnesses as a failure, like most of us. He died as a failure. He said, I failed to raise my kids in the mental regulating of Jehovah. And I know that's older terminology, but he said, I failed to raise all my boys and they left Jehovah. All we did was drift away and we weren't baptized yet. But He died and got pancreatic cancer, mind-body connection, of feeling shame and guilt for not raising us according to Watchtower. And he died sad, angry, and alone. My grandpa died sad, angry, and alone. My mother died saying Jehovah's going to kill her, never have taken care of herself physically, mentally, in any way. We weren't allowed to go to a psychiatrist. It goes on and on and on and on. All we were was fully doped up by Watchtower and Promises of Paradise. And so now they're just turning off all those switches. It's like they've opened the gates. They're like saying, you old people go. This is going to change whether you like it or not. We're letting no more beards. We've cut down the hours. It's going to be a regular fundamentalist church.
Well, no doubt, Dan, you have got experiences that make you the way you are today. You really you were extremely abused, so to speak, not in a sexual way, but geez, you were abused mentally by this organization. Jeez, you know?
Well, you know, Rick, when somebody tells you when you're going through adolescence and you go into the elders and say, oh, I masturbated, and they say, you know, well, it's obviously you're entertaining wrong thoughts. Grown men who've done the same thing, who are doing the same thing, who are going through the same thing and have gone through the same thing, act like they don't know what you're talking about and they've never done that. What does that make you feel? There was a point in my life where I felt like I must be part of Satan's world because 5 million people are doing right. And even when someone would tell me, hey, Dan, you know, we're struggling with the same thing, not elders, of course, but Rick, that's a house divided against itself. I don't know how to say that to where people can understand it. But when you have a craving for food and you're told you can't eat, you're a house. What do? You have to eat. Or you have a sexual desire that's woken up at a certain age. And you're told that's absolutely wrong. If your eyes making you stumble, plug it out. If your body makes you sin, pummel your body and lead it as a slave. Beat yourself up. If someone drops semen on the ground, go outside the city for he's unclean for many days. So you are filthy and disgusting. You think about this. You are filthy and disgusting from a Watchtower perspective if you had a normal sexual desire. So what happens to you? Where do you end up? What do? You become a Clinton. You say, oh, I had sex, but I didn't have sex with her. We become like that. You end up in porn shops. You know, well, I didn't have sex. I just watched some stuff on the screen. I just watched some porn on my computer. And so all these things, I believe, were birthed out of Watchtower. So, man, when you don't get to develop properly your self-esteem, you don't get to go to school, you don't get to wear a jacket that says I'm varsity, I'm junior varsity, you don't get to mesh with the kids right, you have to get, you know, and all this weird stuff that we've had to go through, man, it's a total nightmare trying to rebuild from 40. But I want to say this, Rick, and you know it, and I know it, we can rebuild after 40. If we ask God in our life, I'll just say it like that. We don't have to go down we don't have to be in delusion. There's a thing where the Bible says, I'll quicken you, I'll bring you back, I'll restore you, and I'll give you back with the locust feet. And so, although I've had all that shame and guilt and fear and all that, God has restored me, and He'll restore anybody. And I love it. I love my life now. Life is good and very good. It's better than I could ever have imagined or hoped for. And so that's the hope for people. God can do amazing stuff really quick if we just say, hey, I don't want to go it alone anymore, and we understand we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. We don't have to throw God out just because the witnesses claim God's name Jehovah and they're the only ones who, you know, worship Him. They've known the name Jehovah for over 100 years, and they've been false prophets for 100 years. So if the name was Jehovah was so big and was so important, then they wouldn't have had to go through all that. They wouldn't be false prophets. They wouldn't be throwing away all their literature and recalling it. And so the fact that they do shows that just knowing the name Jehovah don't mean nothing. It's all a heart thing, you know. So anyway, I don't want to get. I know it's Saturday.
Well, no, there you go. I mean, well, Happy New Year to you, Dan. I'm glad that your life has really turned out really, really good. Happy New Year to you and Angela both. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, so it said hi too to everybody. We love everybody. We love all you guys.
Well, they love you too. They love you too. All right, let's go with 978. Looks like Dick Borgie once again. Go ahead, Dick.
Thank you, Rick. It's kind of hard to follow Dan. It's a hard act to follow. Yeah, I just want just kind of comment. I agree with everything that Dan said. If you take a little slant on one issue, I think that the Watchtower is not going to try to get rid of us, the old folks, because that's really where the money is. They really cash in on the empty nesters, those that they've grown their families and their houses are probably worth $300,000, something like that, and they leave them to the Watchtower for the worldwide witnessing work, which means, excuse me, which means that Jeffrey Jackson's going to get another Bentley. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Rick.
Hey, Dick, you're very welcome. Thank you very much. And I wish you and Connie a Happy New Year too, Dick. Good.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, well, there they go. Well, I'll tell you what, one thing that we haven't discussed here tonight is that 2023 was the year of Watchtower constantly asking for money. I mean, they couldn't stop asking for it. It was unbelievable. And even the convention, the Exercise Patience Convention that took place this summer, there was a video in that convention that really was disturbing. It really, really was. And it had to do with, well, it was a bunch of witnesses in an African town, and the town was going to be taken over by a militant government. So the witnesses were told they should move out of that town and go to a refugee camp. Now, some of the witnesses, now this was a witness video at the convention. So some of the witnesses were wondering whether they should do it or not, but the elders encouraged them, listen to Jehovah, listen to the voice of Jehovah, and you better go to that refugee camp. So they all went to this United Nations refugee camp. You might remember the video, it was terrible. So they went to this United Nations refugee camp, and what do you think they see in the camp? It shows a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses all, gathered together like you see down there on the border. They're all gathered together in one little area, and there on the tree is a contribution box to give to the worldwide work. That floored me. I couldn't believe the Watchtower would stoop that low. I can't believe they would do that. A refugee, here you are, you're leaving your house with basically a go bag, but don't forget to bring your cash. Don't forget to bring your cash so that, you can give it to us in our worldwide box. So they asked for money all year long. So many people called up here and said, boy, at all the meetings, and almost every meeting, there was a call for money. And any way they could get it. And that giving desk around the end of the year, we talked about that just a couple of weeks ago. Around November, the end of November, the witnesses, as well as, all organizations, they ask for money because they know people are in a giving spirit. So even the Watchtower is saying how you can donate to the worldwide work, as they would say. And you can, give your jewelry, insurance policies, you can give anything at all. You can give stocks, you can give even your rewards. You guys get rewards on your credit cards or even rewards from Walgreens. They'll take those too. They'll take anything they can get their hands on. And they'll take your house. They'll drain you dry, really. They'll constantly take everything you have. And they even, as one sister was saying earlier in the program, they coerce people to give their house to them. And people leave the house to the Watchtower and their kids don't get anything. How crazy is that? But it happens. So, but it was a year of asking for money too. 2023, it's going to go down as one of the worst years ever in the history of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And 2024 is even going to be worse. I can see it already. They are right now, they are maneuvering. They are maneuvering, trying to come up with better ways to keep people to stay in. So many people are leaving. So I'm sure these governing body meetings, one of the main thoughts they bring up at the meetings is how are we going to keep the people in? What are we going to do? So that's why, as I say, they probably said, okay, fine, keep the brothers in, let them have a beer. Okay, keep the witnesses in, let them not have to report time. Let them know that, they can repent now all the way up till Armageddon itself and then come back to Jehovah. So they're trying every trick in the book to try to keep people to stay in the organization. But it's been a year of tumult. It's been a year of disappointment for the Watchtower. I don't know how they could be happy. Even the worldwide work, when we read the figures this year, it was down. It was down. Many countries were reporting no growth at all. America, in fact, had one of the lowest baptisms in years. Nowhere near as many people got baptized as a normal year for the witnesses. So that shows you something too. So we are seeing an organization. We are seeing an organization in a free fall. We are seeing it kind of crumble right before our eyes. And we should all be happy over that. Geez, I mean, how happy can you be when you see a criminal organization, a sinister criminal organization now being found out about? It makes you happy. I'm looking forward to seeing the governing body members taken off with handcuffs. And I believe that's going to happen. Yes, Dan.
Yeah, and being exposed without remorse. I think that's what these governmental people are like. Wait a minute. Now we run things here, and Watchtower's like, well, actually you don't. And I think it's interesting that you know that they're so stubborn that they're still, you know, I think these governmental people are thinking, wait a minute, you know, you work for us, and they do. They work for the government. They've been a part of the United Nations and a part of all these things. And I was thinking this. I just wanted to throw this out there, Rick. Why is there PMOs? Why is there PIMQs and all these different terminologies? Why? Why is there such a thing as a PMO? It's because Watchtower, they know that Watchtower will grind their asses like hamburger. Think about that. A church, a religious organization, the men on top will grind you like hamburger. So you have to be a PMO. I wish some of those would reflect on that you have to hide out from your organization, from your men on top. You have to hide so that you're not sifted and ground up and thrown away like trash. So you take out a title like
I think it's also your loved ones, though.
Anyway,
There's a family that like they don't want.
Sister, let Dan talk. All right. I mean, I'll let you talk, but just don't come in. You know, let him talk. Let him finish, then you can come in and talk. Okay. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Rick? I mean, think about a religious organization that doesn't search for you, that destroys you. That's why the PMOs exist. That's why there's such a thing as PMOs, physically in, mentally out, or physically out, mentally in. I mean, they're scared to death. They got to hide. They got to drift out. They got to fade. They got to do all this. Why? Because there's someone holding a gun. And that's the governing body. The governing body, think about that, Rick. The governing body hold a gun to our head. If you dare leave, we'll destroy you. And they do. They just destroyed my buddy. They just destroyed his life. They took everything he had. So you operate under PMO and codes, and you know, it's like, God almighty, isn't that worth reflecting on, Rick? Wouldn't that be something just to sit back and say, where in the hell am I? What am I in the twilight zone in this organization? I'm hiding from the men who say they love us and they have the truth that sets us free, and they know God Almighty personally, and they hear Jehovah's voice more than anybody else, and yet you're hiding for your life. Now that's something to reflect on, isn't it, Rick?
Well, it sure is, Dan. No, it really, really is. And well, what you witnessed, you've really been touched, as I said earlier, by this organization. These guys really, with the stuff you had to go through with your parents, with the stuff you had to go through with the sexual urges and what have you experienced, there was no help there at all for you.
You know what else, Rick, too?
Yeah.
What another big one, another big catalyst for me was my wife left first. My wife, Angelia, left first. She went in and said, I'm going to talk to him about this blood, because it wasn't long ago that you couldn't take any type of blood. Then you could take blood fractions and take these different parts of blood. And she goes, this doesn't make sense to me. So she goes down there, tells the elders, you know, this doesn't make sense. What's this? And they booted her out. Like, you're a woman. You don't, first of all, you don't march in here and talk to us that way. And she's like, no, I want some answers. Who told you to change this thing on blood? Anyway, long story short, they booted her out. They came to my house. They said, your wife has taken a bite out of the apple and she has the rest of it in the refrigerator. Well, about 2 days later, we were in the store. We had witnesses that we knew our whole life that acted like they didn't know either one of us. They walked by us like we didn't know anything. And we're like, whoa. and we had witnesses behind us. And when my wife went out to mow the grass, they ran inside. And now I'm observing this. And I'm like, what? I don't get it. Like, if you want her back, you should say, hi, Angelia, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. We love you. That's what you would say if you want her back. So I started to say to myself, I don't think they want her back. And so the witnesses came to my door about 2 days later. They wanted to check on me. And they said, hey, Dan, we're going over to Applebee's, the elders. And I said, okay, let me get Angelia. Not Angela, my wife now, but Angelia. And I said, okay. I said, hey, Angelia, you know, and they're like, Dan, no. And I'm like, well, don't we want to, I'm thinking that they're going to bring her over and encourage her to come back. And they said, Dan, you're gonna be married in a year, dude. Let her go. She's eating the apple. And now I've got 2 kids, a brand new house, grind her up in a meat grinder, throw her ass away. She questioned the male. She questioned authoritarian figure and damned her, and she's damned to hell. Rick, they threw her away with two of my babies. I'm holding one baby, and they said, throw her away. You'll be married in a year. Elders. So part of my leaving was I was like, they don't want her back. They don't want my wife back. How could they just throw somebody away? So actually part of my leaving was them throwing my wife away and for asking a question. And my question was, did we pass the prophecy of the generation prophecy in the late 80s? And that's when they looked at me funny and told me I was on apostate watch. But man, it was like hindsight. I can't ask governing body a question. I can't ask the elders a question. My wife can't go in and say, could you explain this blood doctrine? You know, they say in Bulgaria, they don't get this fellowship for taking blood. How come we get this fellowship here? And we started asking these questions. But part of my leaving, Rick, was watching the harsh nature of the way they treated my wife that I was still married to with 2 small children, brand new house, going, they just were okay with totally destroying my life. And I was like, where's the heart? So again, you look back, you know, you're serving after 40 years and you're in the shiny suits and you look good, you look beautiful and your hair's cut and all this. But behind it, Rick, to destroy my family and to throw my wife away is dead man's bones. And Jesus said, you'll know them by their throat. Throw that bitch away. She stepped up to us men. She ate the apple. She keeps the apple. And don't you ask any more of those questions about did the generation end or didn't it. Don't ask any more of that. And they threw me away. And I was like, how could they? My mouth fell open. Like, how could you do this to a human that has been loyal to you all these years? Faithfulness, suit and ties, you know, pioneering, ministerial servant. How could you do that to me? How could you do that? And it's like, that's why I come forward where I can speak on this show, because I don't like men like this. Jesus spoke up. Jesus got in their face. Jesus said, you whitewashed graves, hypocrites, offspring of vipers, dead man's bones, outside is shiny and white. That's my heart too. I don't like deception. I don't like people being deceived.
Well, no, excuse me, no doubt, Dan. Boy, it seems like you were in a pretty strict congregation. Boy, I can't believe it.
Yeah, they were strict.
My goodness.
It was iron fist. And I'm going to tell you something too. Even in the Masonry, they taught that you never were ruled with an iron fist. As you know, I was in the Masons for a while. They taught you do not rule with an iron fist. You rule with a staff. And when governments rule by an iron fist, you crush those crowns. You take care of people. You don't stand up to tyranny. Watchtower is a tyranny organization. They have tyranny over the people. And according to that establishment that I was in, you step on that crown. You say, no, you do not rule with an iron fist. You will not rule with an iron fist. And you come forward to help those people. You don't run away. How can I run away, build my life, and then look back at all this tears and suffering? I have to go back. I have to help. I have to say my story. I have to tell people. And then through that, hopefully we give other people permission to come out, and through seeing my story, hopefully they can see their own story and say, Dan's telling my story. That's what happened to me. That's how people get well in 12 steps. They go into 12 step and they say, well, I'm not an alcoholic, but I'll go check it out. And then you hear of all these stories in the 12 step, and you say, wow, that's my story. Wow, I did that. Wow, I lost my wallet all the time. Wow, I run into somebody. Wow, and you go, oh my God. So our truth that we speak, and we are speaking truth. We speak from our heart. Our truth can help set people free. Our truth can help people free if we open our mouth, if we're willing to speak, if we're willing to say, God, give me a voice so I can help these people. I'm not afraid of this governing body anymore. I'm not afraid of elders anymore. I'm not afraid of any of this. And tell them what they did. Tell them how horrible it was. Tell them how it was, And here's one thing I want to say, just in defense of Watchtower, that everything is a means to an end. At a certain point, Watchtower was good for me. And at another point, it became a limitation and a lie. So at one point, I worked within there. I enjoyed my time. I enjoyed going out door to door. I enjoyed giving talks. I enjoyed dressing up. I enjoyed going out with the brothers and assemblies. And then there was a point in my life where it didn't make sense anymore. It was a limitation now. It was and then I started seeing the lies. And I think it's probably pretty normal to engage in things innocently and be a part of things and want to have family and want to have this camaraderie and groupthink and sort of thing. But I think there's another point where you say, it served me, God bless them, and I'm moving on. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that is what helped you too, Dan. At least you had the backbone to say, hey, I'm gonna move on. But a lot of people, boy, I'll tell you, they could be crushed. They could be crushed if they didn't have that backbone like you had. Boy, it's terrible.
And they're getting worse, and they're getting worse, Rick. They're getting hostile. They're getting very bad. Like you said, I think it was this year. It was one of the points you were making. You said that they're having people in the Watchtower look at your social media, and they're spying on you, and they're having people snitch on each other, and so it's getting really, really crazy in there, and it's actually getting a lot worse. It's getting a lot more chaotic, and man, when we sit back, us guys that have been out for a while, and we see the manipulation, one thing that bothers me a lot now is watching Watchtower use fear at the highest levels, running drills, having to go back, the assembly that you mentioned, Rick, where they were in that little government setup out there in the middle of the wilderness, and don't bring your stuff. The cars were breaking down with all their household stuff parked on the side of the road. Well, Jehovah don't tell you, don't bring your stuff. Leave your house behind, leave your house behind, leave your stuff behind, leave your stuff, and go where we tell you. I mean, when I see stuff like that, that makes my blood boil. I know they're stealing homes. I know they're taking people's stuff. I know they're shaking them upside down. Hang on to your wallet. Watchtower is going to turn you upside down and manipulate you every way. And I've heard probably 25 videos of them asking for money and in very covert ways. Jehovah knows what you have. Jehovah knows if you have a second house, and we're to honor Jehovah with our valuable things. And it just goes on. And when you're outside of it, you're like, wow, we didn't get manipulated like that. They weren't asking for money like that when I was in. And so it's even been corrupted, Rick. It's at a new level of corruption. When you stand back, you're thinking, who's running this thing now? I know they've been taken over. And a lot of times in your mafia organizations, when there's that kind of money flowing through, they even get more corrupted. So it's just seeing it go down the tubes, knowing my brother, my oldest brother, who's a presiding overseer, to know that he might lose a home or two to them guys, to know that he may not have nowhere to go, and, to think, how is he going to adjust the beers and no service time? And I just really feel sorry for him. And I feel sorry for the people still in that have to adjust to this, and they're being mind twisted and mind bent. And I don't like when people mess with people's minds. And so, because my mother had schizophrenia, so I don't like people that operate in covert ways. So that's why I show up to the show when I can every week, because I love to bring straight talk to bullshit from the Watchtower, and I have to speak to it. And I want people to know I'm not afraid of these men, and never will be again. I was a time I was afraid and humiliated and shamed by them and guilted by them and manipulated by them and ran every which way by them. But when I saw Tony Morris, when I saw him say, you guys better get your butts back out in service because your coats are going to be dripping in blood, he said. He said, I'm just going to read it to you from the scripture. And he found the most horrid scripture he could read. And he says, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to be drenched in blood if you don't go in service. I went, oh my God. And my head about popped. And I thought, how could they be using this kind of manipulation and mind control on these people? And what are they doing that we don't see? This is what we see. But what are they doing behind the walls of those kingdom halls? Who are these men up in Brooklyn that are speaking all this, that are having these meetings and these different Watchtower articles? And who put Tony up to saying that? Who put Stephen Lett up to saying babies are an enemy of Jehovah? You know, who's putting these men up to this? It's just freaky, Rick. It's getting scarier. And I just, hope my brother can come out. I hope all the people can come out of there. And it's also, I just want to say one more thing. It's interesting to me that some of these people are coming out of there and hitting the ground, aren't they, Angela? We had the guy that came here. He's already got his own channel. I'm like, dude, when did you get out? 2022. And you just lost your wife and everything. Like, how do you have a YouTube channel? And I'm hearing this on your show, Rick. One person after another has has their own radio show. They want to speak out. They want to say what's going on. And I think, holy cow, what's going on? I couldn't do it. It took me years to come out and get my voice and, to finally start really communicating about it. But these young guys are popping out and they're right on board. I'm just wondering if it's because of all this YouTube stuff that's out there and all the availability, because we have spoken up and stepped up and said, we're not going to let this go on. We're going to bring some light into this garbage and also bring some strength and hope, because the ones who leave, it's like when you hear somebody that's went through Hitler and these different ones that come out and speak, you go, wow, they made it through. They made it through a genocide. And so we have made it through our own genocide. We've actually been dismantled and had to put ourselves back together. When you leave Watchtower, they completely destroy your temple. They were your temple. So when they cut you off, destroy the connection back to Watchtower and all that stuff, you literally have to come back from the ashes, which is what it means to be born again, to come back from that. God raises us back up. And so that's what we're called to do. We're called to go back and speak in the face of false prophets. That's what I think anyway.
Well,
that's what I think this show's been good for, Rick. It's been awesome for that. Thank you.
Well, no, I always appreciate you expressing yourself, Dan. You have a lot to say. We appreciate it. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Okay, did Dick want to say something? I saw Dick in there earlier. Did you want to say something, Dick? All right.
Actually, it's me, Rick. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Constance. Yeah. Yes, I can. Yeah.
Hi, dear. I wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody and you and Susan. It's wonderful to hear Susan on tonight. And we all just love you very much. Dan said so much. It's like, oh my gosh, where do I begin? But I was just going to say, Rick, I've been out of the organization 40 years. My heart goes out to the pain and suffering and destruction that Dan went through, and of course, many others on the show. You have to walk this walk to really understand how destructive this and how evil this organization is. And, I'm grateful to still be alive. I'm very grateful 40 years later, I have a new life. I have found, the Six Screens family here on the show. Rich and I just got married this year. I mean, it's a new beginning. It's like the Bible number 8 is a new beginning. And it's a wonderful life now, I can say. But I was just going to say, my heart goes out to the people who are still in. Rich has his 2 boys that are still in, and in their own minds, they think they're doing the right thing, as far as shunning him, which is so evil. Rick, it reminds me of people in history during Hitler's regime, the Third Reich, where the Jews were 6 to 7 million were absolutely murdered under Nazi regime. And the people, they lost their homes, they lost their businesses, they lost their families. The women and children were separated from the men and sent to the torture chambers. Well, and you might say, well, what does it have to do with Watchtower? Well, it's all about oppression. It's all about tyranny. It's all about the organization controlling every single facet of your life, the way you talk, the way you walk, you know, how you dress, how you don't dress, who you associate with, who you date, where you work, where you don't work, who you marry, who you don't marry. Do you have children? Do you not have children? I mean, the list just goes on. And education, no education. It just goes on and on and on. And my heart goes out to people, Rick, who are still JWs or PMOs or PIMQs, you know, because, you know, it is a wonderful, wonderful life not being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I am a Christian today. It's been a very long journey for me, but I have a beautiful relationship with Jesus Christ today that I never had with Watchtower. And my heart goes out to them because so many of them are oppressed, and yet they're supposed to be the happiest people in the world. And yet, Rick, they don't even know what happiness is. I mean, I'm not saying people have to get crazy and do, you know, insane things. I'm not talking about that. But I mean, just go back to college and get an education, you know, travel, have a wonderful life. Because it is a great life. And what's so sad is a lot of the JWs will never know that. They will never know that. They don't grow intellectually. They don't grow as far as maturity. You have someone who is a JW, say at 20, by the time that they're, you know, say my age, you know, late 60s, 70, 75 years old, they're still the same person. They have not grown. There's been no personal development. They're still stunted as a 20-year-old. So I hope, you know, Rick, that people are really listening. And the thing about Watchtower is that it's just, you know, it's just an illusion, you know, with what Watchtower teaches with regards to this paradise earth and everything else. And it's just so sad. My heart with regards to this is that people are truly wasting their life, you know. Life is so short. And, you know, I do believe in a heavenly hope. I really do. But I was going to say that, you know, life is so short. You cannot even get yesterday back. It's gone. It's over. And there's nothing worse than wasting your time in your life. And then it's just like on the pause. I think I see the witnesses, their whole life is on pause. Pause, pause, pause. The recorder's on pause. Why is it? Because they keep waiting for the new system. In the meantime, their whole life is passing by. They don't even have any relationship with their family members. You know, celebrations. I mean, right now we're at Christmas, you know, birthdays. I mean, that's what life is all about, is enjoying these special moments in life that you'll never get ever again. So and there's a lot of great people out there that were never Jehovah's Witnesses, okay? Let's just be real here. You know, there's a lot of loving, kind people that are so-called worldly, which I hate that term. But anyway, I just hope people will really wake up and stop wasting your life, because you're not going to get that time back again. And fortunately, this show is very loving and kind and supportive. And Rick, you know, Rich and I just love you and Susan so much. We thank you so much, because you are really, truly helping a lot of people. So anyway, thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Constance, for coming in. Well, that is just about going to do it for the Six Queens JW World News. Well, next year, when we do our program again, we'll come up with stories again that are right now happening in the Watchtower. But it was a big year in 2023, and the Watchtower is indeed hemorrhaging. Let's see what happens in 2024. Well, we're going to end the program here. I want to wish everyone out there a very Happy New Year. I hope that all your dreams come true. I hope you can get done the things you want to do. I hope it's a good year for you. So we wish you all the best. Yeah, we got only about...
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, sis. We only have about a minute left. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to wish, you know, everybody a very happy, healthy New Year, great happiness, success to all. Happy New Year, Happy New Year to everybody else.
Well, thank you, sister. Thank you. All righty.
Just so you know, this is not new, okay? I used to do this even when I was a witness.
Yeah.
I used to wish people happy new year even when I was in the Jehovah's Witness.
I know he did. I remember. Well, thank you, Kim. Hey, listen, what's wrong with a Happy New Year? Why can't you say that? I mean, isn't that really?
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. But then, how do you make sense out of
That
nonsense?
never made sense to me.
No, you can't even. No, you get in trouble for saying Happy New Year to somebody. Jeez, what the heck is the matter with that? Thank you, sister. All right, well, we're gonna end it there. We got Eric coming up now. He's originally from Rhode Island, but he's down there in Tennessee, and he's got his program, Awakening After the Watchtower. He's coming up next, so don't go anywhere. Eric's up next with us, and we're looking forward to it. Thank you all for coming in, and thank those two that have commented. Let's end the stream here. Let's go to the next stream.